how all these assumptions that I think are quote unquote true, none of them are true, but I've gotten so unconsciously attached to them. I just think that that's how things have to be. Instead of thinking about building all this traditional stuff like a dashboard for a business, I may not actually even need the dashboard at all in order to make better decisions in the business. All that, the data being collected is standard, but the way that it's being viewed and digested may not be. Basically living inside of Claude Cowork and operating everything in the business from there. The more I use it, the less I'm on other platforms and feeling more and more of the power of it.
I've been noticing that as I'm going down the rabbit hole of AI, the reason I was talking about the focus was I see prompts, like I'm in a subreddit of prompt magic and different prompts you could put in. And it's great. Like one was like, create these 3D cinematic cityscapes. I'm like, oh man, that's really cool. And the kid in the candy store wants to put the prompt in and start building out all these cities. But then I'm like, to what end? So there's two things here that I'm seeing, like the very high level productive side of AI. And then there's also the squirrel, the distracting, cool and fun things to do with AI. And it's almost hard to decipher the two. Now that example is a clear delineation towards one, but there's a lot of things that kind of fall right in between that can blur that line.
Yeah, there's I've definitely experienced that, and I'm experiencing that even more right now because I subscribe to a few AI newsletters, and the majority of the features that are shipping aren't necessarily applicable to me. I like to pay attention to it though. And yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. I'm also part of a few school groups, a few school communities where it's AI oriented. And I noticed that most of them are, that they're charging, maybe up to $100 a month. And I mean, literally all they're doing is posting the latest feature or the latest software that came out. And then, they might mention a use case or something like that. And I actually left a couple groups recently because it was just feature posting. It's like, you could call it AI porn at this point.
Yeah.
What new cool thing? And so I think there's a place, I give myself some space to just read about or try out something with AI for fun. But because I think that's necessary to stir up the creativity of, sometimes you don't know how you're going to use a tool until you start using the tool. And then you go, and then there's this unlock. Creativity is nonlinear. So if you are thinking, I'm only going to look at the things that are directly applicable to something that's going to help, achieve XYZ goal, you're probably going to miss some of the most high leverage things that are available.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side is you could just end up screwing around on AI for a long time. So one of the things I'm really enjoying that's helping me stay on track is I have very specific projects I'm working on that have real goals that will and are resulting in, growing the business or growing a business. So consulting a few different companies. I've got a couple different businesses I'm running. And so I find myself very satisfied and very full with everything that's available to me right now. I am primarily using Claude Cowork. I basically am living inside of Claude Cowork and operating everything in the business from there. The more I use it, the less I'm on other platforms, and I'm feeling more and more of the power of it. And I'm learning how to use it better every day. Mm-hmm. And so I don't end up in those rabbit holes so much. And part is because I have very meaningful projects on my plate. If I was just a freelancer and I was doing this for businesses, and that was the only thing I was doing, I could see the rabbit holes. If you don't have clients already on your plate, I could see the rabbit holes getting hard to identify whether it's going to take you somewhere beneficial or not.
Yeah. You mentioned Claude Cowork, and I know since our last recording, we mentioned how new things will be coming out week in and week out, and Perplexity Computer, Manus is working with agentic AI, and even ChatGPT. As other platforms are continuing to try one-upping each other and jump into this race, I'm curious to know your stance in terms of tool loyalty, right? Setting up Claude Cowork and spending so much time in there, seeing this process as I'm breaking the habit of using ChatGPT. And I got away from that. I can't remember the last time I really prompted ChatGPT, and then I've shifted away from that. There is almost a habitual workflow that gets locked in with how fast things are changing with AI and seeing the other LLMs roll out more of these features and the agentic capabilities. Where do you stand on your commitment and your loyalty with Claude Cowork, and how quick are you able to adjust?
Well, okay, so Claude Cowork is a like an agent harness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the other agent harnesses that exist out, OpenAI has one, Manus has one, or Manus is one, and there's a few others as well, and there's definitely a bunch popping up. OpenClaw is the ultimate AI agent harness that exists.
Buy a Mac Mini.
But it's also the hardest to program. So I had a hunch on this. So when it was first coming out, OpenClaw was first coming out, in the first week I almost bought a Mac Mini and downloaded it, and I was I was down that rabbit hole. But I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I realized that a lot of the way it operates, I would benefit from learning to use Claude code and Claude Cowork really well, because a lot of that's I felt like a lot of what OpenClaw was going to need, I needed to develop inside of Claude first. And I ended up being correct in that assumption, because there's some guys that are, more expert at this than I am, that are now talking about, like I spent a month setting up my OpenClaw, and everything I was doing could have been done in Claude Cowork. I could have been setting up all these skill files and workflows, and it would have been a lot cleaner. And so going back to your question about the loyalty, one thing I really like about the reason I haven't been that loyal, right? I've been bouncing around from platform to platform from the very beginning. I've tried most of them out. I'm with Claude Cowork right now because it's the best. It's, if you use Manus and you want it to use the smartest version of it, it's actually using Claude Opus 4.6. It's Manus is not actually grokking the information itself. It's plugging into other LLMs, and that's why it's a bit more expensive to use too. It's more user friendly, but it's more expensive to use. And more user-friendly to a degree. I think it's more user-friendly to someone who is not as well-versed in being able to get AI to do what they want it to do. It's very easy to use. And so what I like about Cowork right now is it's got that agent harness feature, but you're using the smartest brain on the planet right now that's available commercially, which is Opus 4.6. And so, as far as being loyal to a brand, there's a lot of things I like about Anthropic and Claude. Anthropic owns Claude. Their PR is good. It seems like they have some values and standards. The CEO of the company is not a traditional CEO. He's more of a scientist. And so,
didn't they come from OpenAI too? Like they saw where OpenAI was going, and they're like, nah.
I mean, so many people have gone. I choose to remember exactly like the origin story of Anthropic, but a lot of the things that are out there now, they just have engineers and executives from OpenAI have kind of shifted around. And OpenAI, per the name, was supposed to be an open source project. This was some of the beef between Sam Altman and Elon Musk, and there's been a lot of debate over that, and so there's kind of like a little bit of an ethical thing. Anthropic, Claude is seen as a more ethical company in some ways, but is that it's all PR really. They did turn down the military from being able to use their stuff for surveillance, but which I think is a good thing. But OpenAI, like within hours, stepped in and said, "Well, we'll do it." Yeah. So, it's, do you want whoever you think the quote unquote good guys are to be making those deals and maybe having a little bit of impact on the system, or would you like for them to step out and just miss out on the money and have someone else do it anyway? It's a very interesting. I try not to get too far down like the judging the ethical side of it, but I can tell that it plays a role in my mind as I'm making some choices.
Yeah. For me, I mean, objectively, we're talking about the best product out there. And my curiosity with the loyalty question was, I've settled more into that thought process of my loyalty is to what works and what's most effective. And there may come a day where Claude isn't the darling of AI, and a smarter model comes out. And with I don't even say volatility. I don't see it as volatile. I think with the variety of updates in the AI space, I guess I'm just curious as to how agile we should stay. And this is for anyone who's looking at, sure, you have the master file, you can have a lot of the workings of your business within, engaged within an LLM. How agile should you be in terms of how you build that out? Are there ways to mitigate that risk, or is there a way to be more agile than others? Are you doing anything in order to switch if needed from relying so heavily on one LLM compared to another?
That's one thing I like about Claude is, and a lot of AI is working this way now, is you're saving the skill, all the value of your business and everything you're doing is in the skills and the reference files. And all of that is being saved onto your computer and so onto your desktop. And so I can take my Claude folder, which has everything I've been working on and all my skills, and I can take that over to Manus and just load up the same skills over there. The same with OpenClaw. I was talking about that before. Is I think that if you have a highly functioning Claude Cowork space, then you'll be able to just port that over. And so I think that I don't feel like I am like stuck in Claude Cowork. I can be agile if I desire to be. That's one of the things I like about being in it. I was bouncing. I mean, anyone who's been paying attention to what I've been saying over the last couple of years, I've been bouncing between models a lot and saying this one's best for this and this one's best for that. Even our last show, I was talking about it. And so I'm with you. Like whatever's working best is probably where I'll be. And right now it's just Claude. And I think moving off of Claude wouldn't be a hard thing to do if something else emerged that was better. But, as far as like these big AI companies, Anthropic seems to be in the lead and is going to maintain somewhat of a lead for a while. But also, the whole OpenClaw thing popped up and out of left field. Everyone, if you talk to anybody in the AI space about the capabilities that exist with OpenClaw today, they would have told you it was 3 years away. And then it just popped up, not from a big company, from one individual who programmed it and set it free. And so I think the same thing could also happen with that. China has put out a couple of open source AI models that you can run locally. You can have a a high-powered system at home and you could be running it locally. It seems like those systems are like 85 to 90% as intelligent as the leading, like say what's happening at OpenAI or Anthropic. And honestly, like what I've been doing, the work I've been doing using Claude Opus 4.6, I always felt limited by the intelligence of the systems that I've used in the past where I felt like I was bumping up against it. But this latest Anthropic model really, I don't feel the same. Like they'll put out a new model in the next few months, maybe tomorrow, and it'll be even better. And then maybe I'll change my mind about, oh, this one actually doesn't feel as good. Maybe it'll have the same processing but faster. But pretty soon we'll have open source models we can have at home, and that will be. I think that's where everything's going to move. Is I think we'll plug in if we want like the smartest thing for certain aspects of what we're working on, but for the average task, the majority of stuff we're working on, I think I personally will just have a server here at home loaded with a couple different models that will be doing the bulk of the work. Yeah. So I think that's probably where we're moving, where everyone's going to become much more quote unquote loyal to just having their own system at home. And it's right now you need a pretty robust server to make that happen. But there's already talks about the power of your iPhone, like the new chips that are coming out through Apple and the power of what fits in your pocket being good enough to run high-powered local models. So, I think being loyal to anything right now would be a bit silly. I mean, I think loyalty is mostly like a feeling we have as humans. We get loyal to brands, we get loyal to people and all that. And I don't really feel loyalty to tools that much or companies. Try not to. But, I've had Apple for a long time. I've had these, iPhones and MacBooks and iMacs and all this stuff for a very long time. How much of that is unconscious loyalty and how much of that is they just have the most convenient and best system on the planet? There's some argument there.
I think what becomes convenient is what we get programmed to, right? I mean, if you have an Android phone and you have a PC and you have an Android TV, all that links and all that works together in a Garmin, great. But I have an iPad, an iMac, and an iPhone because when I got a family plan with my wife, it was cheaper to get the iPhone. So I got the iPhone. And then it was like, okay, the AirPlay doesn't work for my Android TV, but it will work for my Mac. So it's not necessarily loyalty, it's convenience. And you see how, and this is a little bit of a tangent with how Apple's marketing genius of the blue bubble for the iMessage versus the green bubble. Like some would say that's loyalty. That's just aesthetics that you get connected to. But back to the AI focus, right? And I did mention, I just wanted to mention that for anybody who was curious of switching from tool to tool, which of course having those local files is really the best approach. And for anyone that's doing that, they're able to inject into each LLM as they need. But when you look at the use case of AI when it comes to your business, the creative approach of playing with it and then actually doing something productive with it, how do you tote that line? Because and we could address how you're tracking your workflow in a little bit too, because I think that's the solution to what we're talking about. But for anybody who's looking at finding that line between playing with it and then actually finding what's going to be effective and useful, how do you identify the two?
I mean, I'm most of what I'm trying to do is solve a problem in a business. So it's all useful. Was it 2 weeks ago? I spent about 10 days building out a dashboard for a client. And then I ended up scrapping the whole thing and starting over. And, I could have gotten upset about burning $100 in tokens on this project and all the time spent and all that. But I learned a lot. I learned about, trying to creating something simple before creating something complex. And so this is a really good example of one of the things I want to talk about today, which is using first principles thinking. And this is a term that's been used in tech for a long time, because sometimes we end up down these rabbit holes and we're trying to solve a problem in the way that we know how to solve the problem up until this point. And going back to first principles is a way of saying, okay, what are we actually trying to achieve here, and what's the best way to get there? Because I think one of the things is I may think, I thought I needed a static dashboard because that's what I'd had before, right? Oh, we have this dashboard, we feed all the data in, and then the dashboard displays the data we need to make better decisions in the business. And so I ran into a roadblock where I was actually having authentication issues between, I was trying to get data from Google Analytics and Meta and School and some other platforms. I got 6 different platforms I'm trying to feed into this one custom software I built. And there's a lot of security things that are going on in the background. And some companies are actually blocking APIs unless they're really trying. It's a funny world out there right now. But what I ended up doing is saying, okay, what I'm working on isn't working the way that I thought it was going to work. And I went back to Claude and I said, let's apply first principles thinking. And so what's really cool is back before AI, I could bring this type of a conversation to AI, I would have to sit and journal out, how do I dismantle how I think about this, how all these assumptions that I think are quote unquote true, none of them are true, but I've gotten so unconsciously attached to them. I just think that that's how things have to be. And so with AI, I can go, look, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. This is the result I'm looking for. This is why I want it to exist. And I'm going to let go of the how. I thought I knew how this should work, but let's drop the how and let's go to first principles thinking. I can just type that in. Let's go first principles on this. And especially in Claude Opus 4.6, and it goes, cool, this is what you're actually trying to achieve. And of course, I'm always asking it to ask me more questions. And then it asked me a bunch of questions about getting more refined on what it is that I'm actually trying to achieve. And then it suggests a different way to do it. It's very different than how I was assuming it was going to be done in the first place. And so, an example of a thing in the physical world that got redesigned with first principles thinking was the rocket that gets shot into space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is why are the rockets designed the way they're designed? Well, they're designed because of the Romans.
Mm-hmm.
You have to rewind 1,000 years. And you're like, whoa, what do the ancient Romans have to do with this? Well, they designed the roads to fit a horse and carriage and all this, and then that became all the shipping, and that turned into railroads, and they need to be able to fit things on railroads. And then, all right, the road's this big, railroads are this big. Oh, we need to ship all this material, and we need to get a rocket, so the rocket's got to be able to fit on this thing. And I remember Elon said, oh yeah, we just scrapped all that, and we totally decided to build our rockets on site from where we're gonna, they're still shipping things around, but they were able to take first principles thinking and go, oh, we've been working inside limitations that don't actually exist anymore. Yeah. Or we can create a system where that doesn't exist anymore. And so there's all these limitations we have in our minds about how things should be done because this is how they've been done. And we're not even aware of them. And so using an AI tool and saying, like, how do we get to first principles on solving this problem is a great strategic partner and working that out. And so I was able to do that recently. And so that really keeps me from building stuff that I don't need to be building, because I'm like, one of the things I'm realizing is I want to, instead of thinking about building all this traditional stuff like a dashboard for a business, I may not actually even need the dashboard at all in order to make better decisions in the business. What I can do is, what's the purpose of the dashboard? We'll collect the information and to identify where the bottleneck is and where we need to put our attention on what's the next problem the business to solve that's going to help it grow. Because a business that has a good offer is naturally going to grow. It's its natural state is growth. And the only thing that keeps it from growing is the bottlenecks. And so our job as an entrepreneur is to just identify the offer that works for the people. And then B is remove any bottlenecks that keep that from customers taking it on. And so, instead of the dashboard, I'm like, oh, let's just feed all this information into my Claude Cowork. And I built this whole system in Claude where every Monday it goes and pulls all the data necessary to make decisions. And then we create parameters for, if this is below this certain threshold, we need to get an alert. If something's going really well, we need to be let known about that. But we may not even need to look at all the same KPIs or the same numbers from week to week. It may not be a standard thing anymore. Mm-hmm. All that, the data being collected is standard, but the way that it's being viewed and digested may not be. And so now that's kind of like where I'm moving with this, and that has caused me to be able to like create some really cool stuff along the way. So that's an example of trying of doing something to stay on point. And then I also have all these other creative ideas, because if you don't have a target, if you don't have something you're moving towards, you can get lost in the weeds really fast. But if you have a target, then you'll have all sorts of other ideas pop up. And I'm looking at, how do I, every step of the way of building something, how am I developing the skills, the skill files along the way, that where if this is a process I know I'm going to repeat again in the future, I'm going to make sure that I create a skill along the way, and I'm going to continue to refine that skill until as I'm doing these projects. And so I'm holding that frame in my mind as I'm building everything. And so,
the way you describe it, I mean, it's really the acquisition of almost any skill, where like if you go to the wood shop class, they give you the hammer and you're just hammering nails in a piece of wood. Like, okay, this is boring. What do I need to do this for? But that's the creative side of you're getting familiar with the hammer. You're getting familiar with the wrench. You're getting familiar with Claude. You're getting familiar with all these things. And then when it's like, oh, we need to build a house, here's the blueprint. You learn where the tools apply and how to get it going. And I've seen it in talking to business owners, and I've even seen it with some examples of folks who've tried to start their automation business, and they talk about, oh, what do you want to automate? And the person's like, okay, I want to automate this. It's like, all right, great. But it doesn't solve their problem. And in my research, 95% of AI implementation projects have to be reworked because they're like exactly what you mentioned. They're not starting with the problem first. They're not using first principles. So instead of the question of what I want to automate, the question is, man, what are my pain points? Man, what is it I want to solve? What do I want to take off my plate that I'm tired of doing? And if it's something like writing emails at the end of the day or answering your emails, okay, that's something. Now ask AI, how do I not do this anymore? And it could provide the solution and give you the direction. And as you build a familiarity with the tools, you're like, oh yeah, this is a situation where I have a nail, I need a hammer, right? Or I need this wrench for this project. And that's what I'm hearing in terms of just the acquisition of skills. Just get familiar with the tools, learn what they do, play with them to an extent, and then identify the problems within your business and look at how the tools that you just played with can solve that problem.
Yeah, thinking about how okay, I want to solve that one problem like you were just mentioning.
Mhm.
Email, right? That may be a pain point. And so the pain point, so then you got to ask yourself, well, you may not need AI to check your mail. I mean, that might be how a part of it, but the question is asked is, why do I need to be in my email in the first place? Right. And so this is where a lot of times people are automating stuff. They're kind of like they're automating workflows from the old school way of doing it. And so it's like, why does, like, when I make a bank transfer, it's going to take 5 to 10 business days? Why can't I bank on the weekends? Why does, all these things, and then crypto comes out and doesn't operate the same way like the banking ledger system works. It's got a totally different ledger system. And so it kind of obsoletes all these rules around banking. And that's why, like, okay, it's 2026. Why the fuck do I still have to wait 5 to 10 business days for a transfer? Well, because they're operating on all these old assumptions. And the technology is there. It's just not being used. And usually, like, things that are highly regulated are going to be the last to move. But email, similarly. So as you were saying this, this is a whole new like conversation that just popped in my head based off of this. And as you're saying that, I go, well, why do you need to check your email in the first place? Because I'm traditional. Like, if someone sends me an email, it might take me 10 days to get to it. So, like, I don't behave in email the same way other people or most people do. And I go, all right, well, why do I need to be in my email? One is I like to see, well, what bills are coming up. I get notifications. I get receipts. I get, it's good for me to, I'm paying $30 a month for this service. I'm not even using it anymore. Email's a great way to catch those types of things. I may have clients that are emailing me stuff they need answers for. I may have people who want to engage with my services. People on the team may be sharing things with me that I need to see. They chose email because they're forwarding something they got, even though most people on the team know that they should just be texting me. And so, like, email is like this place that's where a lot of things are happening. I go, okay, well, instead of just having, like, how does AI keep me from checking email? It's like, well, why am I using my email in the first place? And then is there, like, now I want to leave this, like, when we leave this conversation, I'm going to go look at my, have a conversation with AI about, why do I even check my email in the first place? And then maybe there's some way to, like, for me to, I like to get newsletters too. It's like, okay, I could probably have all the newsletters came out and batched and topics that matter to me get viewed. All the bill stuff gets thrown in a folder, and then it's batched monthly for me to review. And so I'm not, as far as our attention goes, it's fragmented, because if I'm just going through and I'm checking, because this is the habit I have now, is I go and check my bill, someone's got a question. Oh, I need to think about this. It's 8:00 at night. I don't want to think about this right now. I'll think about it in the morning. I'll be able to give a better response then. This is associated with this project, which I'm not working on right now. I need to put it over here. Like, checking email is such a fragmentation of attention. So it's like, okay, that's probably why we don't like doing it.
Yeah.
Because you're having to switch context every single click, instead of how do we organize this in a way, whatever. So, and just an example of, like, how we think about things. If somebody goes, I want to improve my email stuff, I'm like, okay, well, we're probably gonna have a conversation that you've never even thought of before.
Yeah. And even that email that you didn't respond to at the time, you got to get back in the morning. It's going to take up bandwidth. It's another tab open in your mind that you have to think about and go back to it. And to your point of, if you can have all of your newsletter, the information come together, maybe a morning report, and then links to read the articles themselves if it interests you to dive deeper. And even that, like, when it comes to information acquisition, YouTube videos, I sent to you a link. I was like, hey, Jensen, NVIDIA CEO, they had a big event. He did a podcast with Lex Friedman. My time is not what it used to be. I don't have 2.5 hours to watch the whole thing. Boom. Had a slide deck made. Notebook LM gave me a slide deck of the key insights and the feedback and everything. And that's given me the ability to learn and take in information so much faster and so much more effective. So zooming out, I mean, solving the problem that actually needs to be solved. What I'm hearing is we don't know what needs to be solved, right? And what I mean by we don't know what needs to be solved is we could see our pain point. We are in an action or an activity that we've just been used to, as we reference, C 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, when we were talking about Android and Apple. We just do what we do, and we don't ask those dangerous questions. I wanted to say so bad. Dangerous questions, Mike, like, why do we check our email? Like, why do we not bank on the weekends? But these are questions we should ask now more than ever, because we have the technology to disrupt everything that we do.
Yeah. I was I'm in the middle of launching a business and launching a new offer. And so in that process, I conducted 12 market research interviews with potential customers. And they were all so very ingrained. And like, sometimes I'm like, well, what if you could get rid of this? And then immediately they were like telling me why they couldn't get rid of it or why it couldn't be done differently. And so, like, one of the questions that became really handy for me in those interviews is if you could wave a magic wand and make this part of your how you run your business just go away and it just magically was done, that was like a really great question, because it kind of let them let go of their knowledge of how it's done and just imagine that it just disappeared or it becomes unnecessary or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were able to give me better answers. And then I was able to use that information to develop a product, an offer that is, I can now create the product that does the thing that they can't believe or have the vision for being automated or handled by somebody else in some way or whatever it is. And so it's actually good because, like, this particular industry that I'm building it for, I have some experience in, but I never built, like, it's real estate investing, but I never built like a big real estate investing company. And so I dipped my toes in the water enough to understand what the pain points were, but I wasn't in it for so long that I have all these assumptions about how things must be done. Or but what if this and what if that? There's like, surely it can handle this because I run into this problem and that needs to be handled by a human. There's all these things that people think that they're much more important in the workflow than they actually are, and don't realize that a lot of this can be programmed out. And so, yeah, going back to like the whole first principles thinking, there's ways of getting around those assumptions.
You made a very interesting point that makes me think of the value of the novice, right? Where the expert, the person who's done it for years, knows how it's supposed to be done. And it's someone who comes with fresh eyes. Now, it's still important to recognize the experience and the knowledge in which, someone who's mastered their craft has accumulated. But for somebody with fresh eyes who's not used to, well, it's always been done this way and this is how we do it, they would have an amateur view of things, which would give them more of an unorthodox approach in some areas, which is like, oh snap, like it's so crazy it just might work. So to your point of, hey, you're not programmed in this industry to the point of this is how it's always done. You get to come in with fresh questions, fresh eyes, enough knowledge to, hey, you dipped your toe in it. You have enough knowledge to know the lay of the land, but not knowing every nook and cranny allows you to connect some dots that some folks might just be too close to see. If they're among the trees, they can't see the forest, and you're like, oh well, this looks like this can go with this, especially with what I know now, and connecting that. Have you seen any recurring problems or recurring, like, much like when we talk about business and there's only a certain number of different issues, right? A lot of folks will like, I need more leads, or we talk about bottlenecks in the business where the handoffs are lagging in terms of tasks within an organization. There could be overlaps in different industries or in different use cases in which a solution that you solve in the real estate investing space could be useful in the healthcare space. Have you started to notice any of the overlap or recurring issues or problems?
I mean, you said one that was really interesting is, and there's a question I hold in my head is regarding lead gen specifically. You know, prior to the internet, lead gen was done like through magazine ads and newspaper ads and billboards, and then the internet came along, and then it became blogs and SEO, and then Facebook came along, started selling ads, and so we've been working in the ad space for, it's 2026. I'm like looking at the clock. Like
almost 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when Facebook started running ads.
They started in 2008, so the ads came years later.
Yeah, but like now it's all turned into meta ad. You're either running Google ads or meta ads and for getting leads, or you're doing organic stuff to get leads. And I'm like, the question is, how do we just get in front of the customers? It may not be an ad. It may not be SEO. It may not be, there's all these things. And so I see the future. In the future, I see a lot of marketing is already beginning to happen. Is like a lot of people used to be limited on selling their product based on whether they could get good copy or not. They either have to hire a copywriter to write a sales page that costs $10,000. Maybe they don't have it to invest. But now for a $20 a month subscription, you can have you may not have the best copywriting in the whole world, but it's going to be 10 times better than what you would have had previously. And so now everyone has access to good copywriting. Everyone has good access to funnel design. They have access to all these things you need to market. And so that's going to shift lead gen in the future. And so, my question is always like, well, where are the customers already? Where is their attention currently? And how do we get in front of them there? And sometimes it's an ad. But I think that's one thing I notice is people tend to think there's like one place to like, how do I grow my business? How do I get in front of people? And they may be too attached to one way of doing it. When I see that shifting pretty dramatically in the future.
It's already shifting.
I'm not seeing a lot of like cross between. I don't think I'm working with that many different companies where I can be like, okay, they're all thinking about this in this way.
Yeah. Okay. And to your point with the lead gen and becoming visible, right? It's already shifting. Like the SEO space is now shifting in terms of being discoverable by LLMs, and even the way we structure our show notes for this podcast and my Modern Man podcast, that's been changed, and specifically mapping out key points, things that's easier for LLMs to aggregate and pull, so that they pull your information versus other internet information. So you're already seeing that positioning change a little bit. And that's slightly nuanced, but there's even going to be more and more of that changes. Because if someone now types into Google, the old way of SEO is a thing of the past. You're not trying to rank number one in Google. You're trying to be part of that AI summary that comes in at the top.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to be. I want to be the summary and the link that AI gives to you. So how do I do that? How do I prepare and position the content in which our conversation is in that regard. And to your point, is anybody who has a subscription for $20 has the ability to learn the position, to adjust and change. And it is going to be wild looking at where we go even a year from now in terms of how that discoverability will be. But like we mentioned with Calvin Corelli, the human aspect, I'm seeing that value even more and more because it's still just an extension of human. It's the creativeness and the execution of the operator that's yielding the results. Like the hammer is not going to build a house in my hand. In a carpenter's hand, it could build a house. Now, in a good carpenter's hand, it could build a mansion. Same hammer, different outcome. And that's what we're really seeing as we get better and better hammers with the updates and all the new models. There's excitement around what it can build, but it still is very much the skill set and the operator behind it that's yielding the model that dictates the output is what I'm really starting to fully embrace and come down to.
Yeah, that we're moving closer and closer to only being limited by our creativity. So there, rewind 100 years ago, we were limited by creativity and all these other things. And as time's gone on, it's like, no, it's less technical, not limited by technical things. We're just limited by creativity. And, there's people that talk about solving physics, and it's like, oh, once we do that, then that'll be the ultimate creativity unlock is when AI can crack all the problems of physics. And now we really can just create a whole new world if we want.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the sci-fi. That's why I've started reading sci-fi again. Because it's such a great, like everything that's happening, like the iPhone was on, like that's a Star Trek thing, right? Remember they like whip out their little handheld device and they're able to call up and then they were able to check the temperature and like what was the oxygen and they were able to do all these things from this little handheld device. It's like, well, that's why we have iPhones now. It was like science fiction is more of like not a prediction. It's like the creative part of science. It's the creative part of innovation. Of if you want to get an idea of like what's possible with the tools we're moving forward, and you want to improve your creativity, I think reading things like science fiction and going, oh, okay, like I see how there's this tool that doesn't exist yet, but I think we could just create it. And so I think that's what I see happening right now.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of, I know the movie just came out. Actually, I had a date night with the wife. I saw it. It was pretty good. Project Hail Mary. Have you
I haven't seen
that? It's pretty good. It's a sci-fi movie based off of a book. And my friend, he's like, man, this is one of my favorite fiction books. And I was like, I need to get into fiction reading. I've been very, very honed in on just reading nonfiction, and that's taught me a lot. But I've had a couple people tell me of like, fiction, it has a lot of insights in it, and even the sci-fi aspect of it going to the movie, starting the book, Project Hail Mary. I'm like, oh, it's the realistic sci-fi too, where it's not that far of a jump from where we are currently, but it's enough of a bridge where you're like, okay, I see how these things end up happening. I see how we can get there. And much of like what we're seeing, I see the Cybertruck and I think Tron right away.
Totally.
And that's where the inspiration for this comes from. The creative minds, the entrepreneurs, you folks listening at home who will create the future with these AI tools have been inspired from Star Trek and from all of the sci-fi that we grew up on. And these are it's like the creative ideas coming together for this massive imagination that becomes our reality. Everything that we have around us, these two microphones, these two cameras, did not exist before. It was an imagination that turned into hands creating it, which is now how we're able to project this message through time and space as someone watches this at a different time in a different location than when it was recorded. So the future is now more so than ever, and it's even more exciting with how fast it's moving with the development of AI. And I wanted to touch on with the focus aspect of what gets measured gets managed. And you shared a post in the school community, which is interesting, and I loved it. And that was part of the inception behind this idea of AI focus is tracking your workflow, tracking your AI sessions and what actually gets done and measuring that. I'd love for you to touch on that a little bit, and some folks that are listening who are not in the school community. I know you're starting the Friday ritual. What does that look like in terms of setting that up, and what have you learned so far in the process?
What's funny is when I made that post, I actually committed to having Claude make the entire school post and make the lesson inside and everything, and it did. And so, yeah, my Friday update will be posting every Friday without me needing to even think about it. And so, yeah, I'll share the tool right now. And by the way, I accidentally had it build the lesson. There's a link in the post inside of school that references a lesson that was in draft mode.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it out of draft. So there's like probably more to it than what you saw because I didn't take it out of draft till yesterday. But essentially what I did was I'm working on like 4 different projects inside of Claude Cowork right now. And what I do is I will launch I'll sit and I'll think about how something needs to be done. And then I'll send agents off, and it might take them 10 minutes to go complete the task. And then I go to another project and I do the same thing. And I just kind of have these projects in rotation. Depending on where I'm at in the project, it could be 2 to 3 projects running at once, like simultaneously. And so me tracking all the things that are beneficial, like I have this desire to share everything that I'm doing so other people get the benefit of how to do it. But with all the projects I'm working on, for me to sit down and go, okay, I'm going to document something along the way of what I did, and I want to share with you how I did it, would take up so much of my time. And so inside of Cowork, what I did was I created a system inside of Cowork that is a logging system. And so it logs everything I'm doing. And then the thing about it is that's really cool is not only does it log it, but it spots the patterns. So I have it log everything I'm doing over the week. And then on Friday morning, it basically creates a report on everything I did in the last 7 days, basically from Friday 9 a.m. to Friday 9 a.m. And it identifies the pattern. And so there's, 6 different patterns I have it identify. And this is all inside of the school of like someone wants like how do I do this step by step and program this for myself. And then inside the school, I also have it to where like, hey, I want you to share and I want you to build this inside of your Claude. And and then on Friday, when you get your report, I want you to drop it in the school. And then that way we have a whole community of people that are sharing how they're using it. And then I'm going to start dropping the individual skills in there. I kind of like the idea of teaching people how to build the skill the way I built it instead of just handing them the .md file. I see a lot of other people just handing out .md file, the skill files.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cool to teach people how to build it. That way, I've always been more interested in teaching people how to think about it versus just handing them the already done for you thing.
Teach them the fish. Don't just give them the fish.
Yeah, I think with the businesses I'm operating, it's a lot of give them the fish and they'll pay for the fish. But as far as like if I'm doing education side of school, it's more like I'm teaching you how to fish. So there's 6 different tags. So it's watching everything I'm doing. It's looking for when I do something new and fresh. And then the tags that get applied, to identify the patterns is there's breakthrough pattern, tool pattern, mistake pattern, process pattern, time saver, and share. And so what it's doing, it's looking at everything and going, oh, is this a breakthrough, a tool, a mistake, process, time saver, or something to share? And, maybe it's tagged with multiple things based on whatever it is. And so now I'm logging everything I'm doing. And then it's identifying the patterns. And then it generates, part of the skill is generating the weekly review. And so, and there's some concepts in there I'm using with other skills as well, which I'll talk about. And then that way, every week you can review and go, oh, this is everything we did together. And it's a bit of a refresher for you. You can share with other people. I'm creating content from it. And so I did this, I'm doing a lot of work inside of Go High Level right now. And I'm having Claude through MCP and API connect into Claude, but I also into Go High Level, but I'm also having it take over my browser. And one of the things I noticed was that it was wasting a lot of time doing things because it didn't know how to use Go High Level yet. It just had its assumptions. And so it's like, oh, I tried this 5 times. It didn't work. Now I'm going to try this other way. I'm going to try this other way. I'm going to try this other way. Oh, I figured out how to do it after 5 minutes of trying it the wrong way. And so I also created a Go High Level tracker where I'm teaching it to learn how to work inside Go High Level. And so now anytime I'm inside Go High Level, Claude Cowork is finding when something didn't work and found the way it did work. And so we're like mapping how Go High Level works. So every time I'm doing something Go High Level, it's referencing that file. And every time we run into a new roadblock, it documents it and then tells us how to do it the right way.
Nice.
And so I'm building this whole Go High Level skill, but I'm not sitting there and trying to teach Claude Cowork how to do it at all. I'm setting up the system so it learns how to teach itself how to use it.
Oh, nice. So it's literally learning as it does it and goes through the process. I'm curious because I know Go High Level, they have fantastic customer service and they have a whole suite of blogs to show you how to do everything. Would it be advantageous of getting those blog posts and all of those tutorials, adding that to the skill? Would that help at all?
It may. I mean, it's when it hits a roadblock, it goes and finds those blogs and does a search to find it.
Oh, problem solving stuff.
But also sometimes there's something it runs into a roadblock, and that as a human, it's easy for me to do, but for AI taking over my browser, it can't click a certain thing in a certain way. And so sometimes it's the way that they're telling you how to do it as a human is not the same way it's going to be done. Also, it may do it through an API call versus through a Chrome browser. So for instance, I was building a website in WordPress. It's hosted through Go High Level, but I'm in WordPress as an example, and it keeps on wanting to, there's several different ways that you could upload the HTML into the website to make it work, right? And so we tried 3 different ways, and then we finally found that just doing a straight FTP insert is the way to go, upload. And so I just had to, we just created an FTP username, password. I was able to give that to Claude. It's now saved in a little glossary inside on my laptop somewhere. And so anytime we need to update anything on the site, it doesn't need to go to the browser at all. It just opens up the FTP and just fires it right through. And seriously, I want something changed on the website. I tell it what I want it changed. It rewrites the HTML locally and then inserts that through FTP. And it gets done in a matter of seconds. It's incredibly fast. But if I was to look at a instruction manual on how to do this, it may walk me. FTP may be one of the options, but that's the option that works the best for Claude right now. And so that's why a lot of those how-tos may not necessarily be the best way to do it, because the way AI needs to do it and is the fastest to do it will be different.
Yeah, that's huge delineation right there. And going back to first principles, we might have a way we want to do it. Why can't it just go this way. It's like,
Right.
no. If this is what you want, it'll be a different route, but we still get there and even more efficiently and consistently by using that approach. The FTP approach probably is much more efficient for your workflow now than what it would have been if you were doing it yourself.
Yeah. Now I know that as soon as I start working on a WordPress site, the first thing we're going to do is set that up, set up the ability to just inject that way. And so, yeah, that just most things can be done 100 different ways, and it's just identifying the way that's going to be the most effective and efficient for the system you're using and your use case.
Nice. I love it, man. I mean, you gave us a lot today. Was there more you had in terms of first principles, the tracking of how you're using AI, tracking the workflow, and anything you wanted to share with the audience in terms of maybe latest tools, maybe latest use cases that you've discovered from last time we spoke?
I think the big thing on the first principles is just being faster at recognizing that you might be in a unnecessary rabbit hole, and then going back out and saying, hey, like I don't know how many times this week I just typed into the box, hey, let's zoom out. Let's zoom out. And like, what are we actually trying to accomplish? And is this the best way to do it? And I think that that's still up to us as the humans to do that. And otherwise, you could just end up building a lot of unnecessary complexity that can be done much more simply.
Yeah, I was speaking to a business owner this week, and he was breaking down the problems. I was like, okay, what are your bottlenecks? What are you dealing with? And he's like, I need this solution. And I was like, oh, well, the AI can do this. He's like, yeah, I need that. I was like, well, I don't know if you need that. I'm just telling you what can be done.
Yeah.
We need to see the big picture first. And back to that 95% failure rate, the main problem is because companies and businesses aren't doing a proper diagnostic of their business, of what they're trying to accomplish first to spot the bottleneck. So they hear, oh, I need more leads. I'm not calling my leads fast enough, so I'm going to use this AI calling service. And then now what they have is a pipeline of more leads coming in, and the real bottleneck rears its head, and you have a bigger problem on your hands than what you had in the first place, because you didn't identify the problem or even take an umbrella look or overhead look at the entire organization or the entire problem to start with.
Yeah, that's why it's good to get somebody from the outside to look in and ask the questions. And I met with a business owner last week, and I was talking to him, and similar thing. This is my problem, and I'm like, okay, well, like, run me. I started asking him questions about his metrics. What's the conversion here? Where are you losing people? Is this the only place you're getting leads from? Yada yada yada. And then just me asking the questions provided a ton of clarity. I mean, that's the benefit of like hopping on like a discovery call with somebody can be really beneficial, because you may not engage with their services, but just like this guy, he walked away from the call going, I just realized I need to have a better handle on all my metrics. A smart guy, he probably, he can make more money without me. He'd probably make more money overall with me, but like that call may have made him, $5,000 more every month for the next 6 months, just because you got clarity on something. And so yeah, the let's zoom out, every business I'm working on, even, there's one business I've been working on, consulting for 2.5 years now. And a few months ago, I just said, let's just zoom out on the whole business. I'm in the weeds with it too, because I've been, with the company for so long. And let's just reassess everything. It's like, oh, okay. Well, like, now that we have everything and we're looking at it, okay, the thing that I thought we needed to do to grow isn't necessarily the thing we need to do to grow. We need to do, this other thing. And it's because I had, I think the longer you've been running your business, the more valuable that whole, like, let's zoom out prompt is, and start treating the business like it's brand new. Rebuilding my wife's business right now. I could have just started with what we already had, but I decided to create basically a parallel business next to it that looks, when the site launches and you're going to look at the site and you look at the flow and how everything operates, it's night and day on how it operates. And that's because I decided to zoom out.
Yeah. Like my wife said, her observation of, my offer and my business, she's like, I feel like you're doing a whole new thing. And at first I'm like, no, it's the same thing, just altered or whatnot. I'm like, it is a whole new thing because time management and productivity. And the tool you just developed and shared is the solution that my clients would have paid me for. Track what I do and then spot the time wasters and the habits and all of the recurring tasks that you pick up. Okay. So if I don't adapt, I'm obsolete. So that's what a lot of businesses need to do, is identify the reality is how you always done it might not be the way to do it moving forward. And what you do may become obsolete because of AI. Doesn't mean that you're no longer useful. You just need to upgrade. And getting clarity on your metrics, getting clarity on the nickname, Mike, because I wanted to make sure we get a nickname for you. Because I just noticed at the bottom, my name is AI Hot Chocolate. But we don't have an AI nickname for you. What would it be? I was trying to throw some in my head, but I didn't know if you had any ideas yourself.
I don't have any right now, but now that you've planted the seed, I'm sure something will emerge.
Well,
I've learned a lot of nicknames over the years. They're usually given to me. So,
what are some?
Oh God, I don't know if I should say them out loud.
This is a safe place, mostly.
Well, in the Navy, one of my nicknames was Jiminy Cricket, and that was given to me because when we'd hit port in certain places, they were like, let's go visit the prostitutes. And I don't think that's a good idea, guys. Like, these are the problems that come with that. And they're like, oh, you're such a Boy Scout. So they call me a Boy Scout, or, the funny one was Jiminy Cricket. So this guy's like, trying to like whisper the good advice into our ears. And it was a way to make fun of me. In jiu-jitsu, I was named Matraca. And it's Portuguese, and in like South America, there's like this toy that you spin, and it's like yeah, but it basically means chatterbox. I could talk a lot, and so yeah. So Matraca was one that stuck. Early in my like getting into psychedelics, I was really into sharing them with my friends and like guiding them and showing them how to do things. And so they started calling me Dose Daddy, which has stuck for a while. So yeah, those are some of the nicknames. My wife calls me Papi Chulo.
Nice. We'll let her have that one.
Yeah. So she actually, convinced a bunch of people at Burning Man to start calling me Papi Chulo. So there's like 30 people at Burning Man that call me that now. So yeah, those are some of the nicknames.
That's some inspiration.
None of them are AI related, but
yeah, I figured that'd be some good inspiration for the audience. I don't want to see in the comments, for anyone who's made it to the end of this episode, I want to see in the comments any nicknames that you had. I was like, I thought of like merged Mike, because how you merged with the AI. But like, I don't know. That's That's mid. That's mid. I think we have some better ideas out there. So I'll think on it.
It's gotta be up there with AI hot chocolate. I mean, doesn't get much better than that.
We'll know it when it hits us. We don't have to rush it.
Yeah.
Just something to put out there. But
well, what did you? I know we want to wrap up, but like, yeah, what did you discover in AI this week?
Oh man. So I said it last week with the Notebook LM, and I actually took that to heart, and I jumped in and used Notebook LM with deep research to prep for a client call, learning about an industry in solar, and just learning more of the bottlenecks that I suspected they were dealing with that was actually verified on the call. So like a lawyer asking questions I already knew the answers to, for deadlines, for structures, for issues and problems. And it did a really good job at preparing me for that. Like I already have slides to present the solutions to the problems that he mentioned. So the prep is also going to be part of the offer for our follow-up call. So that was something I doubled down on. And what I also discovered was the tangents that I went on, right? I discovered a prompt that would take any YouTube video and break it down into a whiteboard, 6 points to share. And I saved that prompt and I went into the previous episodes of the Modern Man podcast and I started putting those in to see if I could have that come out every week. And I'm like, wait. This is cool, but this does not move the needle on my immediate focus and necessity for revenue. So I had to back up. and while I'm playing with that and shoot, might be something that comes out soon as a fun side project. I think these side projects could add certain flares and certain features to what I'm doing already. But that's what my biggest discovery was. I'm going to have to be discerning with where I put my attention and pull the leash a little bit on myself. Because being a kid in the candy store now, there's a lot of things that I want to do. And if anything, I'm getting a little too obsessed with these AI decks, these AI slide decks to acquire information.
I think, yeah, I mean, if I look at my AI journey, it's just been an obsession with a way, like refining a way of doing something. And then it's like, okay, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
I've refined it enough. Let's move on to the next thing. It's hard to see the next thing a lot of times until you get to that place where you feel complete with the thing you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's been some of the discoveries, and I'm excited this week. There's some flexibility and free time for me to get more in the weeds of just like deep in the sand of more processes that I want to roll out and more things I want to set up. So I hope to have a detailed update for you next week in the failures, because I already know. And to your point, it's not wasted time. I already know there's going to be a lot of dead ends where I'm going to go down a route. And it happened a lot with building out the deliverables of my AI audits and the offers, was going down a route, taking on a tool, trying something, it's not working, or I come to a dead end, back up, reapproach it, and then find a new way to get there. So that's what I'm working on this week.
Nice. Wild stuff.
I like it, man. All right. So if you guys are sitting in this seat with us, going down the adventure, don't do it alone. Check out the Full Stack community. Some amazing value being shared in there. And also, I love the idea of just the community of us sharing what we did in AI, tracking what we've done in our workflows, and if we're actually moving the needle in that direction. So join us on the community. That's Mike. I'm Ted. I have some things to wrap up before I do that pitch. Give yourself permission to try things for fun. That is more advice for me than anybody else. What is the use case? Identify the use case of the creativity that you discover, because creativity is not linear. Create something simple before creating something complex, right? It's like learning the fundamentals before you try and do too much. Use first principles thinking. Let's go first principles on this. That's a prompt. That's something you could put in your LLM right now. Drop the how What do you want to achieve? Focus on the outcome, not the how you want to get there. Are we working within limitations that don't exist anymore? We've been programmed to operate in a certain way. And if we don't ask the dangerous questions of, should we reapproach this? Why have we always banked Monday through Friday? Why don't we have instant returns? I can send you the money right away, but it's going to take you 4 to 5 days to refund it. Come on now. I get it. I'm going off on a tangent. If you don't have a if you don't have a target, you can get lost in the weeds really fast. You need to know where you're going and what you're shooting for. And how do we get in front of the customers? Is lead gen going to change? Is the way you get discovered changing? And how are you going to stay abreast to those changes? What gets measured gets managed. Track your work. If you really want to identify the productivity side of your AI usage, actually track how that's moving you towards the goals that you've set for yourself. And how you do it isn't always how the agent's going to do it. How you do it is how a human interacts with these systems. It might be a completely different approach for your agent. And when you deploy that, just let it work. Let it do what it needs to do and help it solve those problems and learn along the way. Let's zoom out. Another prompt you could put in. And what are we actually trying to accomplish here? Get outside perspective. That way you're not focused and honed in just on what you see. And then start treating the business like it's brand new. You've been doing it for years. You've been doing it for a long time. What used to work might not work anymore in a matter of weeks. So now is the time to reimagine what you're doing and also use the tools at your disposal. Now I can say, that's Mike, I'm Ted, or that's Mike, pending nickname, AI Chocolate, signing off. See you in the school community.